Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Our program will begin soon. Yeah, I got it.
How are you? Good.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2025 Annual Conference of the African American Mayors Association. Please stand for the singing of the Star-Spangled Banner and the Negro National Anthem. Lift every voice and sing.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Chief Executive Officer of the African American Mayors Association, Phyllis Dickerson.
Good morning, everyone. I know you guys are all tired and exhausted because I can see how you're moving. We are glad you made it. So please make sure you take the time to attend the mini sessions in the Innovation Center in the breakout between each meal section. By the time you leave here, hopefully, you'd have gotten out information on federal funding from many of the federal officials whom you will meet over the next couple of days. Hopefully you will make a connection with an AMA member mayor so you can stay in contact with them, and hopefully meet a member of the Business Council so you can further discuss opportunities for engagement in your city. As you scroll down your social media today, be sure to repost content about the AMA 2025 conference. You can find AMA on the platforms at our mayors. We are live streaming this conference on our YouTube channel, especially for your counterparts that didn't get to make it. Please make sure you share and be sure to let your networks know. And lastly, don't forget to tag us in all of your posts. We can't wait to share your posts too. We'd like to extend a special thanks to George Basiago, Managing Partner of U.S. Mayoral Roundtable Organization, for live streaming this year's annual conference. And now, let's get started. So let me welcome to the podium, not an alpha, but an omega man, the president of the African American Mayors Association, Stephen Reed, from the great city of Montgomery, Alabama.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mayor Stephen Reed of Montgomery, Alabama, and President of the African American Mayors Association.
Good morning. It's great to see so many of you here. I heard our CEO Phyllis Dickerson's comments about the spry energy that is exuding in this room, because everybody turned in early, about 10 o'clock, 10:30, and had a long night's sleep and rest and sound a lot better than I do. So we're glad you're here. But if you have a colleague or coworker who's not here, I want you to text them. WHWYA. That's where you're at. And then tell them you need to be here, you're missing it. All right? Because I know that's what you were doing about 10 hours ago, maybe 12. But let them know that we are getting started with our opening plenary breakfast, and we're grateful to have so many of you here. You know, when we think about our Corporate Business Council, we really think about the friends that we have and the partnerships that really come together to help make this year a reality. Your steadfast support is what has allowed us to grow into the organization we are today. A special thank you goes to our top-level sponsors: Amazon, Axon, Wells Fargo, the American Beverage Association, Black Wealth Data Center, and HNTB. Your partnership is invaluable. It is an honor to have our Business Council, corporate sponsors, and distinguished guests with us as we launch this year's conference, The Power of Now. Thank you for your continued contributions, both past and future, which ensure that AMA remains a strong and effective voice, empowering African American mayors with the resources and best practices they need to lead their respective communities. This year, we are proud to have over 100 active members in attendance, representing more than 32 million people. Our organization exists to empower local leaders for the benefit of their citizens, and we are committed to helping them thrive. We also take pride in our role as an organization that champions individual rights and opportunities. with a focus on policies that positively impact communities led by African American mayors. Since our founding in 2014, we have approached policy initiatives with a commitment to fairness, personal responsibility, and economic empowerment for all. Thank you for not only supporting AMA, but for encouraging others to join us in strengthening our mission. This conference would not be possible without you, and your dedication does not go unnoticed, in particular in today's environment. We are fortunate to stand on the shoulders of a rich legacy of African American mayors, leaders like Maynard Jackson of Atlanta, Marion Barry of Washington, D.C., Tom Bradley of Los Angeles, California, Wellington Webb of Denver, and yes, our friend, the late Sylvester Turner, mayor of Houston, Texas. They all served with courage and conviction before us, along with so many others. We could go down the list of those who really blazed trails for all of us to be where we are today. And so as we honor their legacy, it is our responsibility to continue advocating for policies that bring about opportunities and opportunities to improve the quality of life for all the citizens in our respective cities. I believe it's important for us to truly understand where we are in this moment. As the political landscape continues to shift around us, it is important for us to think about new strategies and new tactics to maintain the progress that we all benefit from today, both politically and corporately. When I look around this room and I see the diversity in this room, and I see the talent, and I see the brain power here, I believe that we had the capability to come together to figure out what are the best solutions, not only for our cities, but our states and our nation. But we have to do that by leaning on one another and acknowledging that neither has all the answers to the questions. We may not have most of the answers, but we have to find some of the answers. And if one answer doesn't work, then let's look for another one, because ultimately we'll get to a solution. But we do that by bringing together the private sector and the public sector to address some of the chasms that we see in our respective communities. Now, we know we're going to have to do that a little bit differently than we did over the last 4 years. But nonetheless, we figured it out before, and we can figure it out again. So let's make sure as we're here today and we're having a great time seeing one another, talking with one another, that we're talking strategically about what we can do and how we can get things done. Because whether you're mayor of a city of 1,000 or you're mayor of a city of 1 million, you're the CEO, and somebody's expecting you to wrestle with thunder and the handcuff lightning, whether you can do it or not. And so it's going to take all of us to make sure that we can get through these next few days, weeks, months, and years ahead. But we look forward to doing that in partnership with many of our business council members, many of members of philanthropy, and just other friends and supporters of this association. We want you to know that your being here is not transactional for us. It is relational. And that means having conversations informally. That means meeting sometimes informally and casually to talk through things and to acknowledge just what we can do together to change outcomes and to improve results for those that we serve. So let's make sure we're doing that, whether it's over a cup of juice or whether it's over a cocktail, whether it's over coffee or whether it's over breakfast or lunch or whatever it may be. But let's make sure that we're using the talent that's in this room, the amazing track record that so many of you have on your Vitas and what you share on your LinkedIns. And yes, I follow you on LinkedIn. Some of the other stuff, I'll let you slide on that. I know you're a little bit more business focused on your LinkedIn profile. But it's good to see those initiatives. And we're going to need that in cities all across this country, from coast to coast, and even in between in the heartland, to make sure that we can provide the best chances for our residents that we serve. So I want to say again, thank you for being here this morning, for rising early and getting up, for having a good time socially last night. We'll continue to do that this evening. But today, let's get to business. Let's get to work. And let's make sure that we're leaning in to the conversations that we'll have on this stage and some of the ideas that we can take back to our communities and some of the ideas you all can take back to your corporate headquarters about how we make a difference. It's been an honor to serve as your president over this last year. I look forward to today and to tonight and tomorrow, but just want to say while I have you here, thank you for your partnership and your collaboration with all of our mayors. And thank you to the member mayors, because you can't be a leader if you don't have somebody who's willing to follow. You're just a man going by himself and talking to himself. So thank all of you for your support as well. We'll continue to do the work. Thanks so much.
Please welcome Reverend Dexter Nuttall, pastor of New Bethel Baptist Church.
Good morning, everyone. Let's pause and bow for prayer. Eternal God and our creator and sustainer of everything, we gather this morning with hearts full of gratitude. We don't take for granted this sacred opportunity that you've given us to gather in fellowship and in faith and to gird ourselves up for the future. We thank you for the vision and the sacrifice and the leadership of the African American Mayors Association and for each leader that's represented in this room. Thank you, God, for the spirit of servanthood in communities across this nation. So, God, we pause to acknowledge that we stand on the shoulders of those who believed in the power and even the possibility of now, even when the odds were stacked against them. Like them, God, we embrace the power of now. So give us power for bold innovation. Give us power for courageous collaboration. Give us power for justice and equity and transformation. Bless every leader, oh God, with wisdom that is beyond their own. Guide their hearts with compassion and their minds with clarity and their decisions that they might have integrity. And as they imagine what is possible for our cities, God, help them to lead with a vision that's rooted in hope and equity and impact. And then, God, we ask that you would help us to seize this moment. Help us to not grow weary in well-doing. For we believe that as you have in times past, you will help our cities to thrive and to prosper, and that the seed that is sown in rooms just like this will bear fruit. So we ask for your divine covering over every conversation, over every initiative, over every relationship. Let this gathering be more than a meeting. Let it be the formation of a movement. Bless the food. Let it be nourishment for our bodies. These things we pray in faith and in purpose and power. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mayor Eric Simmons of Greenville, Mississippi.
I go from here. Testing. Okay, good. I come from a place where people were never expected to rise, much less lead the way forward. But we did, and we are. My name is Mayor Eric D. Simmons, and I'm proud to serve as mayor of Greenville, Mississippi, a place we now call a land of opportunity in the heart and soul of this country. I was born and raised there in the Mississippi Delta, known for its soulful music, cultural roots, and yes, its struggles. But I've seen the Delta's greatest strengths, its people, folks who don't quit, folks who dream, despite when the odds are stacked sky high. And when I came back home to Greenville, Mississippi with my identical twin brother, Mississippi Senate Minority Leader Derek T. Simmons, we didn't just come back home to practice law, but we wanted to do something lasting. When I became mayor in 2015, I promised transformational change, and we delivered those results. We've seen and secured $3.2 billion in public and private investments, from a Mississippi Crossing Project, Mayor Reed, that's coming from Greenville, Mississippi, to Butler, Alabama, a Mississippi 1.2 Blues power station, and a $260 million Greenville freight corridor. But we didn't do this to just lay concrete, but to lay foundations. Foundations for women-owned businesses, foundations for entrepreneurs, foundations for families that are looking to do more than just survive, but thrive in rural America. But foundations just can't be about laying concrete. And it's just not about roads and bridges. It's about people. That's why equity has been our North Star. We launched the Mississippi First College Access and Attainment Network. We did a reentry program. We even opened healthcare clinics in Greenville, Mississippi, in a place that has failed to expand Medicaid in Mississippi. And that work has also led us to partner with Mars Food, Kroger Food, Molino Healthcare to do food access and training for our young folks, where we have food corps service members in every elementary school there in Greenville, Mississippi. That work earned us the inaugural Food Corps Child Wellbeing Award last year in Atlanta. But that's just not an honor. It's proof that children now have a voice and a seat at the table for their education, for their well-being. We've even brought our fight on the climate stage, from COP26 in Scotland, COP27 in Egypt, and COP28 in Dubai, because Mississippi deserves a global voice, and now Greenville has one. And in the time where division dominates the headlines, we choose unity. Right there on the Mississippi River, every fifth Sunday, we come together as a community where we're not divided by the color of our skin, of our street addresses, but we come together as a community, brothers and sisters. No politics, no titles, just faith and family. So I stand here today, not just as a mayor, but as a witness that justice and job growth can walk hand in hand. A witness that folks in cities like Greenville, Mississippi are places that you can learn from, places that you can hear from. And so to any other place in this room, we need to understand that southern cities can be the spotlight of national conversations. To all of my brothers and sisters in this room today who've ever been overlooked and forgotten, remember, you never were the problem. You're the possibility. Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this session is titled Building a Future, Wells Fargo's Commitment to Supporting College Students, Financial Health, and Pathways to Home Ownership. This session is sponsored by Wells Fargo.
Good morning, everyone. I am Quentin Lacewell, Vice President of Government Relations and External Affairs with Wells Fargo. I'm going to take an opportunity to let our panelists introduce themselves.
All right, I'll start on the end. Stephen Reed, Mayor of Montgomery, Alabama.
Christian Kuna, Executive Vice President of Athletics at Game Plan.
Brandon Simmons, Chairman of the Board of Regents at Texas Southern University.
And we welcome you all this morning to Building the Future, Wells Fargo's commitment to supporting college students, financial empowerment, and pathways to home ownership. So let's jump right in, starting with Mayor Reed. Mayor, how does financial literacy among college students contribute to the overall economic health of your community and the organization?
Well, financial literacy for young people is urgently important. Something I not only try to share with my kids, but also young people I'm in contact with throughout my community in various roles. But on the college campus in particular, that's the first chance for a lot of people to be independent of their parents, their guardians. And so getting into debt is very easy. Getting out of it is the hard part. So what we try to share from our vantage point of working with Alabama State University, which is the oldest HBCU in the state of Alabama, as well as other colleges and universities, to offer those resources with our financial partners, the banks, but also the city about what things to do and what are things not to do when it comes to credit cards, when it comes to loans, when it comes to issues that they may have, but try to educate them on some of the services and some of the connectivity that we can offer as a city to help them make those financial decisions that many of them just haven't been exposed to growing up.
Absolutely. Chairman Simmons, what role does your institution play in supporting students in financial education and planning?
Thank you so much for that question, and thanks for the opportunity to be here with you. I want to answer that question from the board level first. I think we'll talk later a bit about some of the specific strategies that are being implemented at the university. At the board level, for me, this is very simple, and it is our guiding light at Texas Southern right now is our students' economic success, period. And I speak of this a bit more colloquially sometimes with the students where I say, I want you to graduate and get paid. I only got one laugh. It's early in the morning, and I guess folks were out late, as was described. So I think at the board level, that's really what's very important. The board's job is to set the strategy and set the culture at an organization. And our culture and strategy right now are really single-mindedly focused on the topic that this panel is here for today, which is the financial success and flourishing of our students.
Awesome. Mr. Kuna, Wells Fargo provides complimentary financial education via the Game Plan platform. Can you explain a bit about the platform for our audience who may not be familiar?
Yeah, of course. We're a digital education company really focused on athletics, collegiate athletics, professional athletics. We try to make it as easy as possible for student athletes to access information around financial education, career education, life skills, and others, and bring it to them in 6 to 8 minute bite-sized modules that they can take around their schedule. So they can take it on their phone, on a tablet. They don't have to be in a room at 8 o'clock at night listening to a speaker. They can do it on the bus wherever they're going. And our partnership with Wells Fargo, really since 2015, providing financial education at no cost to any athletic department, has been an incredible opportunity for Division 1, 2, 3 athletic organizations to really bring that financial education to their student athletes digitally without trying to budget for it, building a cost in, and having those things on their budget sheet as well.
Awesome, awesome. Mayor Reed, how can local governments further support initiatives that promote financial literacy among young people, particularly those students to lead to home ownership? And is there any particular programs that you might be doing in Montgomery to retain those college students?
Yeah, retaining talent is important for all of our communities. We're in a global race for that talent. when it comes to who's in your city, whether they're educators, whether they're doctors, engineers, coaches, volunteers, whatever they may be, blue collar, white collar, across the board. So getting to them early is important. I like to talk about selling the city to our young people, in particular for those who may see one side of the city based from their college dorm or from their apartment, but may not see some of the other things that we offer. So when we think about ways to build the relationships, a lot of it comes from programming. And one of the things that we've been pushing for, and again, our financial partners, including Wells Fargo, have been very, very responsive, has been how to reach people differently than maybe we did 10 or 20 years ago. Often it's through the smartphones, often it's in a virtual way, but we also want to make sure there's that in-person contact on our college campuses to let people know about what we can help them with in terms of their financial literacy, but also their economic empowerment. So we try not to be preachy. We try not to be, kind of old folks talking to young folks about what they don't know. So we try to, really put it in a way where we're incorporating some of their leaders, some of their influencers to talk about building wealth, to talk about using their platforms on social media, and then kind of sneak in the financial literacy part around those topics. So we try to, use some different approaches. And again, I just want to commend Wells Fargo for their partnership, but I also want to commend our city staff for really being open to doing things in community centers and libraries, and then going out onto the campuses in a different way, as opposed to expecting people to come to local government. We try to take local government to them and try to show them a different way forward than what has traditionally been the role.
That's amazing. Thank you for that. Chairman Simmons, how does your college integrate financial education for students to build a solid foundation for their futures?
I want to answer that question by actually tagging on to something the mayor said, and Mayor, it's an honor to be on this stage with you today. I loved the points that the mayor made about the direct connections between employment in the city and students in the college. And I think that's really crucial to this on multiple levels. So there's several levels at a strategic viewpoint where I think about these. One is back to the career opportunities, directly connecting academic programming to employers, to specific real employers in the region who are looking for jobs. Then, and this is where the financial partners become very important, if you want your students to graduate and flourish financially, one step is seeing that they get jobs, but another step is seeing that they are ready for those jobs, and also that they are ready for the financial impacts of those jobs, whether it be paying off their loans, saving and investing the money that they're earning in those jobs. Those are all key ingredients to financial flourishing, and that's really the strategic level at which we think about it at the board.
Thank you. Mr. Kuna, how can our mayors and institutions of higher education engage with the game plan platform for the institutions in their cities?
Yeah, I think the biggest piece, again, it's accessible for any college, Division 1, 2, 3, JUCO, NAIA, whatever school may be in your community. And we try to make it as easy as possible. The more inhabitants to the process comes in, the harder it usually gets. So we've really worked hard with Wells Fargo to build, I think, a very fast onboarding. I think we might have it up or get more information out later, but it's scheduling a really quick call where an athletic director or someone on their staff can learn about the education. They can make fast decisions. There's about 17 or so courses that are out there. So depending on what am I giving to my freshmen versus my seniors versus other teams, they can make really quick decisions and then have it available to the athletes on their phones, on a tablet, on another device, but really building it within what they're already doing on campus. I think what we see a lot is if it's just a digital tool that sits out there and we're hoping athletes will go, those usage numbers are usually pretty low. If it's, hey, we're having a Wells Fargo banker come on campus to speak this afternoon, do this for your pre-work, do this for your post-work, then I think we see a lot more engagement and the athletes getting a lot out of it. So helping the athletic departments a little bit of bringing their athletes in and then them getting pretty valuable education out of it through these modules as well.
Mayor Reed, for cities who might not have a professional sports team but have massive college athletic impact, how do you see community partnerships like the one between Wells Fargo and Game Plan influencing local economies and economic development?
Well, I think that's most cities don't have professional teams. When we think about these mayors that are out here that rep their city so well during the different sports seasons, but most of us don't have that. A lot of us have HBCUs either in our communities or the local colleges, either in our communities or near. And I think what still is the case is that those athletes, male and female, are often powerful influencers. They're often powerful voices to be utilized in a lot of different ways. And I think working with Wells Fargo and Game Plan around financial literacy allows a different voice. It allows a peer to have a conversation and to touch on a topic that may not sound as cool or may not sound as interesting coming from me. But it may sound a little bit more interesting coming from the captain of the baseball team or from the captain of the girls basketball team. Those are things that I think we can leverage because, again, quite often those leaders, and they are leaders on their campuses, really have a lot of sway. And for those of us who run our elections and we go to these college campuses, we know who we talk to when we go. And yes, it's the SGA, yes, it's the fraternities and sororities, but we often will talk to those athletes and those men and women on the sports teams because so many people on the college campus know who they are. So to be able to leverage Game Plan and Wells Fargo to talk about an issue around financial literacy gives us a different avenue and a different pathway, I think, to improve not only the personal financial standing for those that are on college campuses, but our economic standing in our communities. And I think that's the positive for us in having a tool like this and being able to utilize it with unique voices coming from a different angle, using different language than we do, but hopefully getting the same outcome that we all want to see.
Absolutely. Chairman Simmons, in what ways can the collaboration between Wells Fargo and Game Plan impact the educational outcomes for students at your institution, especially as it pertains to home ownership?
I was really curious about this question, and I thought, my background is as a technology entrepreneur, and so I thought that I needed to do a little bit of due diligence before answering this question. And I realized that late last night. I was not out hanging out with the mayors, unfortunately. I didn't know about that, but I was reading some case studies about this program late last night. And I was really fascinated by it because it definitely touches financial literacy, which I think is very important, but I would actually describe it in certain respects as a wraparound platform. We use the word wraparound services in higher ed. And I love that it is not only financial literacy, that it is job skills, life skills, career skills, because I think a holistic approach is really important. And for those reasons, actually, I got quite interested to explore and at a minimum wanted to give some flowers to Wells Fargo and Game Plan for the work they're doing together.
Thank you, and we appreciate that dearly. Mr. Kuna, I understand that the NCAA in many states now require annual financial education. In fact, all Division I colleges are now required by the NCAA to provide annual financial education to all student athletes. How does Game Plan help meet that requirement, and does Wells Fargo's financial education count?
Yeah, it's helped a lot. I think priorities, if something is required, it gets a lot more attention. And so I think that's been really positive, either from the state level, which has different rules for each state and our requirements and things of that nature. The NCAA is a little bit more open, where it's just you need to provide financial education with a little less rules on it. But I think the biggest piece that our institutions that are utilizing the program is, I was a former athlete. The time is very tight. So getting 500 athletes in a room is really difficult. So this is a way to hit some of those financial education requirements without putting another thing on their schedule. From a software perspective, it tracks the time that they're spending. So especially for those states that have 5 hours a year requirements, there's a really good tracking of that time that they're spending within the financial modules. But I think the biggest piece that we hear from our athletic institutions is, I can provide this. They can take it on the bus going to a game. They can take it in the training room while they're being worked on or something like that. So I think that's been a big piece of satisfying that requirement without necessarily filling up their schedule with another activity that's part of that too.
Thank you. To all of our panelists, what are some actionable strategies that students and student athletes can implement immediately to improve their financial health?
I'll let them start first.
I can go. I think just taking charge of it. I mentioned I was a college athlete and then a coach, and I think you get as an athlete into this. I'm going to listen to my coach, my athletic trainer, whoever tell me we have an apartment for you, we have clothing for you, we have food for you, and I think you're missing out a little bit what the other students have to go through to how much do I spend for housing? How much do I spend for food? How much do I spend for that? So I think even doing little things to take charge of their financials and their financial journey early, I think is a really big step they can take. I think the media it goes a lot to NIL and $1 million deals, but most athletes are not at that level. And I think they can do little things early to get started. But I think that step of I'm taking charge of this is a big sometimes a mind shift change to these athletes that are a little bit used to following, instructions, following schedules during those years.
I'm happy to go next. I love this question, and I love it because I actually spend some of my in addition to board, some volunteer time doing mentoring events with our student athletes. So I think a lot about the way the incredible skills and experience they have as athletes translate directly into their success professionally and financially. And so I want to just make 3 quick points on this thread. One, the mayor made a point earlier about following folks on LinkedIn and not thinking as much about what they're doing on some of the other social media platforms. Brand is something that our student athletes understand very well. They don't necessarily yet think about it in the professional world and the financial world. So one thing that I always spend time with them on is the same way that you cultivate your brand as a recruit and as a college athlete, you need to think about cultivating your brand as a professional in this exact same way. Use those same tools and skills, but bring them over onto the professional side. Focus is another one that we talk a lot about. We talk about the way that athletes are very much accustomed to leveraging their mindset as they prepare to walk out onto the field or walk out onto the court. Well, they can use that exact same mindset when they're preparing for a job interview or preparing to make a big financial decision. Just like they wouldn't, just randomly hurl the ball up for a free throw, they shouldn't randomly be clicking through their online banking account. They should bring that same level of focus and mindset there. And the third one is consistency and discipline. The same way that they approach the gym or the track on a day in, day out, week to week basis grinding, they need to approach their financial well-being in the exact same way, paying their bills, paying down their debt, saving and investing. So they actually have all the key ingredients already. And in some ways, it's just about showing them the way it translates over into this other space.
Yeah, and to close this out, I think that what's been said here is excellent. I think the other thing for some of our young athletes is that they have the access quite often to a lot of things on the college campus that ordinary students don't. So they have to utilize that, whether it's the opportunity to talk to a trustee, whether it's not the opportunity to talk to someone who's a supporter of the athletic department and how they got started in their business, or whether or not it's just that internship opportunity. Those are things for them to think about initially. But I think the other part of it is also is understanding just where they are. I was mentioning backstage that we've got high school athletes in my city right now who are already talking about NIL deals. That was unfathomable. wasn't even a concept, back in the heyday when I was in high school for any of those guys. Maybe somebody got a car, whether that was above board or not, different story. But no one was talking about what's my value on the volleyball team, what's my value on the baseball team. So the other thing is to consider, if you can calculate what your value is on this team, if you sign with X school, then what is your value in life? What is your value overall? And to start thinking about themselves as a brand, as a product, as a personality, and as someone who does have influence that is marketable and that has value to it, and how to really think through that. And I think for some of us in this audience, whether we be accountants, attorneys, or mayors, whatever the position may be, is to also think about maybe how we help the athletic departments, how we help the colleges and universities understand the dynamics of where we are right now in today's sports environment. It's not going to change. It's not going to cheapen. We talked about the World Cup coming to a lot of our member mayor cities here with AMA. That's the game of soccer. It's the fastest growing sport. A lot more young people are playing soccer. What does that look like as well? So we've got to start having a different discussion, I think, with the young people on our college campuses and with those college athletes, as well as listening to some of them, because to your point, they know how to get followers. They know how to promote themselves and promote certain things as a lifestyle. The question is, how do you quantify that? And then how do we educate them in terms of how to utilize that to build long-term financial stability?
And thank you for that. As we move into our closing thoughts, we urge every mayor, every city, every business that wants to get engaged with the game plan platform. Chris will be around afterwards to engage you all. But mayors, you all have influence. There's no greater influence than our local elected officials to help us get on these college campuses to educate our constituents about their financial health. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to come see any one of us afterwards. And as we move into our closing thoughts, to all of the panelists, what is one key takeaway that you hope students and cities will gain from today's discussion?
I think for me, that we have great financial partners like Game Plan and Wells Fargo that are looking at creative ways to help our young people. So for us, I think we can be that connector from the financial services industry and from the banking industry to our college campuses, and it allows us to think about partnerships and collaboration a little bit differently. One of the things that we try to stress in around my team and around City Hall is not just doing things because that's the way they've always been done in government. We tend to fall into that trap, at least in Montgomery, Alabama. And how do we do things to add value, to bring creativity and interest, and ultimately results? And I think having partners like this and new technology that I didn't know about before I was made aware of this panel really helps me. So we'll take it back. Somebody on my team has an assignment they're not too excited about, and we'll figure out how to get with our local colleges and universities to bring Game Plan and Wells Fargo right in onto our college campuses to get the interest, but also to get the feedback about how we improve their financial literacy, and hopefully we can tie that into wealth building and economic empowerment overall to draw that interest.
Yeah, just to piggyback off what the mayor said, I think financial education is important across all colleges. It's not just Power 4, small, big-time college athletics. So I always like to shout out our #1 user on our platform last year was Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. There we go. And it's not, highest budget, but really a focus on our student athletes, on their student athletes and how they can have access to it. So I think seeing the tools that are out there that often are low cost or no cost, and how do you scale those out to your student athletes and get them to buy into their financial journey, I think is a really big part of it. So I think sometimes we look at Power 4, large college athletics, but it's really whether you're JUCO, D1, D2, D3, I think that financial education is really important to everybody.
Lincoln was one of the case studies that I read last night as well. I want to compliment our host and our panelists because I think this has been a really interesting panel. I measure that myself based on did I learn anything as a result of participating on the panel? And I actually did learn something that I wanted to share. And I was curious, is anyone in here, were you a first generation college student or first generation professional? So this is true for many of us. And if that's true, it's usually also the case that we're first generation consumers of many different financial products. It's all, at least in my case, it's also the case that we're first generation filers of something beyond the 1040 EZ if you just did your taxes. And so why that matters and what this panel caused me to think about is as we think about connecting, as we think about our role as engines of economic opportunity as universities, as engines of social mobility, we're right to think about the connection between education and the workforce. We need to think equally about the connection between education and financial literacy and understanding of the new things that enter your life once you enter the workforce in that new way. So I'm just very thankful to this panel for stimulating those thoughts for me.
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. Thank you to all of our panelists, and especially thank you to my colleagues at Wells Fargo who help support this work. And thank you all, Mr. President, the African American Mayors Association.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mayor Yadira Ramos Herbert from New Rochelle, New York.
Good morning. As noted, my name is Yadira Ramos Herbert, and I'm the mayor of the city of New Rochelle, a city of about 80,000 people, and by many is considered to be the fastest growing city in the state of New York. I moved to New Rochelle in 2007. At the time, I was a young associate working way too many hours in a New York City area law firm. I wanted to have kids, I knew I wanted to have a family, and was looking to find a place to call home and to establish roots. New Rochelle stole my heart right away. Its tremendous diversity, 30 minutes from New York City, big city energy, and small town charm. I was hooked. Fast forward to 2016, and I'm now the mom of two beautiful children. And I went to a neighborhood meeting to advocate for the improvement of a park in our neighborhood. And I had no idea that going to that meeting, raising my hand and speaking, would change the trajectory of my life. After that meeting, I was asked to join subcommittees and task forces, thinking about ways to redesign the park, thinking to find ways for funding for the park. And I was asked to run for city council. I was like, not me. I'm happy in my lane. I'm happy doing what I'm doing. But I was encouraged. I figured, why not? I took a leap of faith and was thrilled to win and represent the part of the city that I loved so much. During my term on city council, I chaired our city's police reform plan and worked on a lot of initiatives to close the disparity gap that I felt my residents were experiencing compared to their neighbors. As a result of that work, I was asked to run for mayor, and again said no. I didn't see myself as a mayor. Like, what's a mayor? It's not me. Why would anyone want to be mayor, actually? And then a friend pulled me to the side and said, are you going to run for council, yes or no? And I said, yeah, I'll probably do a second term. I'm not stepping down. And she said then, do you want to train the new mayor, or do you want to be the mayor? I said that. And that one sentence really changed my perspective and gave me the courage to run. And on January 1st, 2024, I was sworn in as our city's first woman and person of any color to hold this title. Now, my story is not unique. I know I stand in a room of firsts, many firsts, both in mayors or in professional capacities. And in fact, I think there's a study that says women need to be asked 7 times before they'll finally say yes. And for Black women, we often do not see ourselves in these roles. But we know that representation matters. That leadership and policy rooted in lived experiences matter. And so I'll show you a little bit through my perspective in New Rochelle why that matters. So the mom who moved to New Rochelle looking for a home, wanting to improve her park, let me talk about some of the initiatives we've been able to champion and be successful in. Housing. Over the last 9 years, New Rochelle has authorized 11,000 residential units. And units feels like it belongs in an Excel doc. 11,000 kitchen table moments. 18% of them in an affordable range. And because we know that home ownership is the key to closing the wealth gap, we've actually created a down payment assistance program that gives first-time home buyers 19% of their down payment. The mom who wanted to improve her park now gets to champion the creation of the link. We're reclaiming 3 lanes of a highway that dissected the African American community and giving it back in the form of more green space, weaving in stormwater mitigation, and having it serve as a catalyst for Black businesses in New Rochelle. The mom who has a teenager 2 years in a row, we have secured funding for 500 teens to receive $16 an hour for summer youth employment. Because summer camp, when moms work full-time and the babies are little, it's hard to get them around. Every child this summer that attends a city summer camp will have free busing to and from. Because we have to honor those whose shoulders we stand on. This year, we are increasing contact. So stay with me, y'all. I was at a senior building. I'm not to call them seniors, we're to call them mature adults, okay? We are increasing our contact and services for our mature adults in honor of everything that they've given us and to make sure that they still stay connected to their city. To take advantage of the construction boom that New Rochelle is experiencing, we've launched our workforce development program, training residents in our community to be career ready to take advantage of the construction, but also with full wraparound services to ensure they succeed. And these new units are going to catalyze our downtown. So we're in a revitalization moment. And what we've done is create a tenant improvement package to make sure small business owners have a shot of also taking part of New Rochelle's success. Representation matters. Leadership and policy rooted in lived experiences matter. The mom who was looking to improve a park and was nudged on the shoulders by friends who saw potential in her that she didn't see in herself, and who took a leap of faith now gets to lead a once-in-a-generation creation of a park while ensuring policies make sure everyone in her city thrive. I know you feel the power of this room. I know you feel the collective energy of this room. I'd ask that when we leave this room and go back to our respective states, cities, municipalities, and businesses, continue to tell our stories, but also make sure you let people know they have the potential to be something that they themselves might not know they can do. Make sure that we tap that next generation of talent. We have our college and high school kids right here. Raise your hand, y'all. Raise your hand because they're a little shy. Make sure that we let the next generation know that, especially if they don't see themselves at the table, that they bring their folding chair to the table, because we deserve to be in every space that there is. Our communities are counting on us. Thank you.
The impact team at Axon has been pivotal in bringing inclusivity and ethical behavior into our products, especially for action-oriented outcomes. They're guiding us to develop better solutions.
We shouldn't just be concerned about the safety, but about how are we going to communicate the value of this product to make sure that communities are willing to accept it and that they feel comfortable with taxpayer dollars going towards a product like this.
Which enabled us to prove that our drafts did not contain any statistically significant racial bias towards suspects.
As a UX researcher, how can we collaborate more with the civilians who might have interacted with our law enforcement officers and take that early feedback and incorporate it within our product development process?
They've raised critical questions about features like real-time audio alerts and high-resolution video, ensuring that we consider both law enforcement and public perspectives as we design these features.
This has really informed how we are going to want to talk to many community leadership groups and really raise awareness on the benefits and the safety protections that are built into this product.
And as we look ahead to integrating video analysis into Draft One, we'll again need to rely on the EAC's expertise to help us navigate the ethical challenges we'll face. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this session is titled Mayors on the Front Lines, Innovation, Trust, and Community Safety, sponsored by Axon. Please welcome to the stage Mayor Brandon Scott of Baltimore, Maryland, Mayor Stephen Reed of Montgomery, Alabama, and Mayor Randall Woodfin of Birmingham, Alabama. This session is moderated by Jerry Williams, Board of Directors at Axon.
Okay, so they took my opportunity to call Mayor Reed the AMA president, the James Brown of everything today, because he's been on stage all day. So another round of applause for Mayor Reed.
Thank you.
Also took away my opportunity to talk about Mayor Scott's shoes and that fly outfit he's got on. So hand clap for the shoes and the fly outfit.
And his tailor.
And then last but not least, Mayor Woodfin, I didn't get the opportunity to speak with you, but it's an honor to be on this stage with you all. The video you just saw shows Axon's innovation to ethics and technology. Jerry Williams, I'm the former police chief in Phoenix, but a proud board member for Axon. Secondly, we are one of the companies, probably left of late, that lean into the ethical idea of making sure we get the voices right before we innovate and have technology. So hand clap for Axon, super excited about that. So I'm honored to be here today by three visionary mayors who are at the forefront of everything from identifying public safety as a public health crisis to having real-time crime centers and other innovations. So let's just go ahead and jump right into this. So first question is for everyone, and I don't know who wants to start first, but being a mayor today means facing everything from natural disasters to public health crises to medical issues, as you mentioned previously with COVID. So how do you ensure, or how do you lead your cities through those challenges, and what role does public safety have in that?
I think for us, you gotta understand that there are going to be things beyond your control each and every day when you wake up, and we all get those calls in the middle of the night that we wish we didn't get. But when it comes to some of the challenges that you just mentioned, I think you try to prepare your team, you try to prepare your community, you try to stay in constant contact with those folks who are, on the front lines in the community, who are not city employees, who are not necessarily employee of any agency, that can tell you some of the things that are bubbling underneath the surface. I think having your ear to the street is important. And we try to do that in every way, shape, form, and fashion possible, and to make sure we're collaborating with partners to try to minimize the impacts of those things that you just mentioned as much as we can as mayors.
And I'll just say, it doesn't matter. The first and most important responsibility of any government is to keep its people safe. So public safety always has to be at the forefront. But as my grandmother would say, when you know better, you do better. And when you know that public safety and violence is a public health issue, you lead from that frame. And that's the way that we've been operating since I've been in office, and we'll continue to do that because we have to understand the complexities of things that it's not just about when that person picks up that gun. It's everything that led up to it. It's also how they got that gun, where that gun came from, and making sure that we're looking at all of those things, as opposed to in the past where, and we'll get into that, in my opinion, where we were putting too much responsibility on police officers. They're not mental health clinicians. They're not substance abuse counselors. They're not your children's father or mother, right? And we were requiring them to do so many things that was never meant for them to do. But all of us now who are operating in a different way, we know that we're going to have to face all the other things, right? There's going to be weather events. There's going to be health events. There's going to be water main breaks. There's going to be fires. There's going to be all of that. But we know that public safety has to be at the forefront, because nothing else that you want to do as a mayor is going to matter if the people are not safe.
It's not a lot more to add to what both mayors said, particularly Brother Scott here. I think if you pull back the layers of what any mayor is responsible for, it really boils down to two things with public tax dollars, and that's public safety and public infrastructure. You can't really sub that out to anybody else. You really have to lead on those two efforts, public safety and public infrastructure. And so, in coming to the table knowing that, you start to consider two things, especially based on your question. I think a lot of times in our jobs, it can be a game of whack-a-mole. You can have like the best plans, the best people in the world, and then something pops up and everything you're working towards goes out the window because you got to focus on this thing that just popped up. I think that happens sometime in public safety, but that doesn't mean you should forego actually having a public safety plan, some things you want to do in the short term, some things you want to do long term, and work towards those things. So even when something does pop up, while you're putting that small or big fire out, you're still working on the long term play here related to public safety.
So I so appreciate the fact that everyone up here is identifying the fact that law enforcement can't be this all-encompassing piece. And not only are you identifying it, you're also taking some ownership of it. You talk a little bit about public health crisis, you talk about being safe, you talk about infrastructure. From your lens, how does your leadership style fit with that public safety lens, even when, and I'm gonna be controversial, even when the law enforcement piece isn't being just or ethical? See, sound like church out there.
So in Birmingham, I feel we're extremely lucky and blessed in the sense that our police demographic reflect the demographic of our city. That gets you it pulls you out of some of the national conversations where there's a lot of injustice in policing. But two, it goes deeper in community and building trust. I think there's a culture piece to this that our officers are sensitive to. That doesn't mean the extreme opposite, totally hands off and allowing anarchy and people to just get away with things. I think public safety is all about balance. It's really balance. And you have to look at public safety. I look at public safety from a toolbox standpoint, and you have to have more than one tool within the toolbox. One tool is enforcement, which is policing. That is literally their job, is to enforce the law. When laws are broken, enforce. Now, there are ways to enforce those laws where we want our officers to do it ethically, morally, and not to harm residents. But that's not the only tool in the toolbox. And that's when other community partners come in. That's when residents come in, and even policing come in. When you talk about prevention and reentry efforts, every day people are coming home who have been locked up in state custody, federal custody, and the county jail. How we engage them is important to how we handle public safety. The same on the prevention end with our young people, who we got to figure out how to put more resources in. If we want them to put the gun down out of their hand, we need to put a job in their hand. And so you have to do all of that collectively.
First, I'll just say amen, because when you're in church, you say amen. But I think, unlike my brother Mayor, Baltimore, we're never going to be out of like the national spotlight, especially when it comes to crime and policing. And we are having this conversation as we are now 2 days away from the 10-year anniversary of the unrest after the death of Freddie Gray in Baltimore. And I've been asked these questions a lot recently about where are you? How do you feel about 10 years ago? And what I tell people is that we are light years away from where we were, and we still have light years to go. All right. And it is all about balance. And I always say to folks, you never heard Black people like my grandmother or my parents saying they didn't want police in their neighborhood. Right. They said they want the balance, and they want the police to be focused on those who they should be focused on, not just me because I'm Black and I live in my neighborhood, or just breathing while Black. And now I think to your question, how my leadership fits is first and foremost, I'm the mayor. Everyone has to do what I say or they go work somewhere else, right? That's the reality, and we have to walk into that power. If I say that we're going to have a public health based approach and that we're going to do it this way, then we're doing it this way. If you don't like it, there's plenty of other teams for you to go play on, but you won't be on mine. But when you break that down to the day-to-day operation, right? We have come a long way, right? We 10 years ago, we were the laughing stock of police departments. Now, especially over the past 4 years, we were hosting police departments from around the country and other mayors around the country talking about how we did this thing, how we did all these reforms and set records of reductions for homicides and shootings in our town. And it is that balance, right? We do just that through our group violence reduction strategy, where folks get a letter from me that says, I know who you are, I know what you do. This is your one chance and warning. We will give you whatever help you need to stop doing what you're doing. If you need housing, education, if you need to be relocated, we'll do it. But if you don't, we coming, right? And if they tell me to kick rocks, when I come out there, as we did last week with our local DA, we say we gave these folks a warning. You have to have that carrot and stick and that balance, and you have to focus your police departments on the folks who are bringing in the guns, using the guns, the high risk folks. We cannot revert back to this thing where every single thing they just have to run in with this mentality, because it's not good for them and it's not good for the community. And we still have a long way to go, but I just push all of our brother and sister mayors to think about it in a holistic way. There is every tool in the toolbox, but a wrench is used for one thing, a hammer is used for another. And we have to use the hammer for the nail and the wrench to get the screws and the bolts on tight. And that's the way that we have to understand the ever evolving way to do public safety.
Just to add to what this young brother said, I got to give him his kudos, because we're currently benchmarking best practices across the nation right there on the violence reduction initiatives. Newark, Baltimore, a host of cities. They definitely have the model, to the point where a person that used to be on his team is now consulting with us for a 5-year violence reduction strategy. What they're doing, we're modeling, and it's working. And there's proof and results as far as decrease in the most heinous crimes, including homicides.
So I so appreciate the toolbox notion and different tools. I also appreciate the fact that as mayors, you're sharing ideas with your fellow mayors that they can pick and choose and kind of cherry pick which tool they want to use from that different toolbox. Mayor Reed, I want to ask kind of a different question. So you've been the president of AMA. What lessons have you learned from a public safety standpoint would you like to share with the rest of your fellow mayors today?
Well, I think over the last year in working and listening to all of our mayors from across the country, I understand that there's not a one-size-fits-all solution to it. We all have different challenges in the area of public safety, but we all have to understand our communities. There may be a little tidbit here, a little bit of a piece there I can take away, but what I gather is that all the mayors are working their hearts out to make their community safe. They are looking to the private sector, they're looking to the grassroots, they're looking to best practices, the legal sector, all of those spaces, as well as public safety professionals, those that have been retired and been in the business for a long time, for assistance. So we all want to see our cities be safer and be more prosperous, regardless of the zip code. Because we don't want people to feel like they have to move to a certain side of town or move out of town to be safe. Everyone in this room and those who are watching virtually, it doesn't matter where I talk to them, it's that effort. What the difference is kind of, what does my budget allow me to do? What does my local community have a tolerance for? And then how do we approach it? And then we try to make sure that we put them in touch with other mayors, either be current or some retired, about the ways they overcame it. Sometimes it's crisis management, sometimes it's communication, sometimes it is kind of retooling the culture, not only inside your police department, your public safety department, but also your community. And I think those things are not unique to any of us, and it's something that I've gotten just in talking to the mayors over this last year.
So Axon is a technology innovator, body-worn cameras, evidence.com, AB4, Draft One, I could go, the list goes on and on. As a technology company, and as you deal with the force multipliers of not having enough staffing and people, how does technology help you balance, for using your term, help you balance what public public safety will look like in the next 3 years?
So that is a great question, and first of all, the city of Birmingham appreciates its relationship with Axon because it is a force multiplier related to technology when you can align all those things. And so for our officers who have the dash cam, it's connected to the body cam, which is connected to the taser, literally not just the cloud, but feeds back into our real-time crime center. So I don't care for any mayor how the population of your city or your budget. We are all in a position now as it relates to what's happening in the world. We all need to incorporate more technology into our public safety initiatives. We need more cameras. We need to partner with Ring or whoever. So some of our seniors and elders, if something happens on their block, they can have literally, they can tap into our real-time crime center. Now that's opting in, volunteering. We're not spies or Big Brother, but in every form of technology, it is needed. But don't stop there. For some of our larger size cities, we tend to find gun violence a huge correlation with stolen vehicles because the discharging of firearms is not being done in people's cars. They're using it from stolen vehicles. And so having the bird helicopter in the air, that's a form of technology related to the type of camera on that bird. It's all attached to everybody is what I'm saying is whether it's cameras, whether it's a real-time crime center, whether it's your ability to have connection with your dash cam, your taser, and your body cam. All of these things are necessary. One, for your officers to be held accountable. But two, the public's on notice that you just can't commit crimes in our city. We have additional tools to investigate. And on the investigative end, we have found these forms of technology. When you walk out on the continuum, the public safety, it goes well beyond the arrest. We want a conviction. And so having these technologies available to present before a jury and a judge helps close the case.
If I can jump in, I want to thank Phyllis Dickerson, our CEO, and Mayor Eric Adams for hosting a group of mayors in New York on this very topic. Thank you. A group of us went there, and he gave us the first class tour of NYPD, not the NYPD Blue of Malik Yoba's years. Shout out to our brother that's here, but to this version of the NYPD. And what they're doing with technology, drone technology, the LPRs, body-worn cameras, it was fascinating. I mean, so educational for I think all of us that went. Now take that, and then I go to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, college town, mayor who says we are down 22% in our police force. We're not going to get those jobs back. So we're now investing in technology. Same thing. So you go from New York City to a college town, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, different perspectives on policing, same piece. So I think back to what Mayor Woodfin just brought up, we've got to figure out a way to leverage the dollars that we have, either in our budgets or through grants and appropriations for technology, because that's not going away. And we need it now more than ever, because often if you don't have that, it's just a lot harder to do the work that we're trying to do to make our cities safer. So from the largest cities to university towns, and certainly my city, we are talking about technology as a force multiplier every week, to where we now have someone on our police force who's solely focused on improving our partnerships and improving our investments in technology, in part because of what we've seen other mayors do around the country.
And I'll just add quickly, we couldn't agree more. And we've had Axon for over 10 years. And we have the data, the body cameras, and it all connects. And we have to make sure that we continue in that and focusing it, right? For us, when we have our Watson and we have our intelligence officers and the folks who are monitoring our license plate readers and monitoring our CCTV cameras, which we call City Watch, and connecting all of those things, we allow our businesses and other folks to register with City Watch. So as the Mayor Whiffen was saying, when something happens, we can go and get that footage for them. And it makes it so easy on the back end, right? Well, how did you know it was me? Well, is this your car? Is this you? Right? And you have to make, but as we said with everything, the accountability piece has to be important, right? One of the best features I think about Axon's body thing is that, like, we can take over a body camera when something's going on and they can see, and you can see the officers go crazy when that purple light comes on. Like, uh-oh, they're watching, right? But also it allows us to do these things in that focus. The way you use data is important because we know time after time after time in history, having data is one thing. Using it in the informed way that we all are doing now is important, and you have to put those safeguards in there, because if you go back to Baltimore in the 1990s, et cetera, they were policing off of data, right? My neighborhood was one that had a lot of violence. This is actually why I got into public service, seeing someone get shot at 7 years old. But that data has to be drilled down on and has to be focused and has to be operated on through integrity and the use of who we should be talking about and who we should be focusing on.
So definitely a far more strategic approach as opposed to this all-encompassing one net fits all approach. I did want to, we have like no time, but I did want to give the Ethics and Equity Advisory Council, or the EEAC, a quick shout out with Axon. That is the group that makes sure we're connecting with our community members before we develop products, and we're getting their voices heard, and we're actually being much more responsible and much more accountable. So real quickly to close this out, 2 words that best describe what you want to see public safety look like in your city in the future. Maybe 3 or 4.
2, we out of time.
Yeah, 2. Institutionalized success.
Ooh, nice. Okay. Mary.
I'm gonna kick it to Mayor Woodford.
Okay.
I don't know if I have 2 words. I'll just say this. Public safety for me is people feel safe on their front porch and their children feel safe to play in their front yard.
There you go. I love that.
I still don't have an answer in 2 words. I thought that might buy me a little time. I think that for us, we want public safety to feel personal, and we want people to feel confident. That's what I would say for us.
So if we could give our esteemed panel a round of applause. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. That concludes our panel. Y'all have a great rest of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mayor Stephen Reed of Montgomery, Alabama, and President of the African American Mayors Association.
I feel good. For the James Brown analogy. Really want to say thank you to all of our panelists and certainly to our sponsors. We are grateful for everyone for being here, and I'm going to be very brief because I know we're a little bit over time. Thank all of you for being here. We're going to have a short break after this session, but we do want you to make sure that you take part in our 45-minute sessions. Very, very important. Our business council, some of our other partners, as well as a lot of our mayors, really have some great ideas and initiatives to share. One thing I did not say on the panel just now is that we sent our community violence intervention team to Baltimore a year and a half ago. And Mayor Scott and his team have been doing a great job, and they're doing such a great job. We're trying to plug somebody from his police force to come down and assist us in what we're doing. So they've been doing a fantastic job, but that's what this conference is about. It's about sharing the ideas, sharing the best practices, and sharing the things that we can learn from one another. So you will have a short break after this to make sure the city is still intact, to check your emails you haven't checked, and then call that staffer who's acting like they don't know what you told them to do before you left. Maybe I just had those. But with that said, make sure you check out our sessions too after your break. Get to the sessions, be in place. Really, really want to make sure we support our business council members and those mayors and the work that they put in, the time they put in with our presence. I'm going to say that again, channeling my inner Sylvester Turner. We need our mayors to be in their seats. We need our mayors to be in those seats for these sessions. He didn't quite say it like I did, but I don't have the stature that he did either. He said a little bit more forcefully. So we need y'all to be there. And with that, I'll turn it over to our CEO, Phyllis Dickerson, for some housekeeping notes. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mayor Reed. So a couple of quick housekeeping notes. One, the Waymo car, the autonomous driverless car, is right outside the door where you see registration. So it is coming to your city soon. They have 5 they're testing in DC. For you to go see the Waymo car, it'll be here from the hours between 11 and 2. So stop by, just walk outside the door, outside of registration, and check out the Waymo car. Second, there is a photo booth where you see the Innovation Center breakout rooms. It looks like a magazine cover. You step in, you get somebody to take your photo, you step out, and it looks just like you were on the magazine cover for the AMA special issue of the magazine. Lunch is at 1 o'clock. Based on what you heard from Michael Strahan, what time should you be in your seat? There you go. So I should not have to look for you. You should be in your seat. All right. And federal office hours are on the other side of the ballroom. So there are federal agencies over there to listen to your questions or anything like that. Next, for those business council members have been asking about breakout rooms, there are 3 breakout rooms for pull-aside meetings with mayors. They are the Senate room, the forum room, and the cabinet room. Please share. Don't hog the room, Steve Benjamin. All right, tell him I said it. Tomorrow morning, make sure you're in your seat for breakfast again at 9 o'clock. And lunch is actually at noon and not 1 o'clock. The breakfast 9 a.m. keynote is Mayor Eric Adams himself from New York. And the lunch speaker is Mayor Brandon Johnson from Chicago. So you want to be here. Mayor Reed told you to go to breakout sessions. There are 3 at 11 and there are 3 at 12 o'clock. The 3 at 11 are Community Data Initiative, Mayors Leading the Way, Advancing Climate Action for Healthier Cities, or Ohio River South hosting Public-Private Sector Solutions to Addressing Public Health Challenges, or dream.org in the Diplomat Room. The 12 o'clock panels are Environmental Defense Funds, turning climate concerns into actionable solutions. Or you can go to Skydio. Skydio is the drone company they just talked about, Skydio. Trusting technology through transparency, establishing community engagement in drone programs. And then McKinsey & Company is investing in housing, unlocking economic mobility for Black families and all Americans. Remember what time to be in your seat. I have a list of all your names. I will hunt you down. All right, have a great day. And you have 10 minutes to get to your session.